Hey everybody, welcome to the Justle Podcast. I'm your host, Ernie Raposa, and with me today is Juli Okal. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Ernie. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. Julie is the founder of the consultancy The Shift Matters, and Julie brings fuel to organizations and individuals to learn and design into and through their next big thing. Julie has, lots of acronyms after her name here. She's worked for a Fortune 100 company for a good long while, holds a degree in marketing, Six Sigma and leadership coaching certifications, and just completed her educational technology master's degree in the last year. And I know you get into what that all means for you and your journey. Also, today is a pretty important day because you're launching your very first ebook, New Territory, and that was
Yes.
designed to offer a framework for folks that we hope are listening to this podcast, folks that are on a job search journey, to create this market pull for where you want to go in your next role. So, Julie, super excited to have you here, and I know we're going to do a high level of your ebook and what that can bring to folks. But would love to also hear your origin story. We like to get that from folks as they join our podcast and share what you've done and how you got to this place and where you're looking to make a dent here for folks that are on a journey.
It's great.
Yeah,
So thank you for that. Thanks for
yeah,
that. It's like I said, I've been really excited to have this conversation. I think we first connected when I was in my own search, right?
yeah,
Not very long ago. And so
yep,
I really resonated with just this idea of normalizing the job search process.
yeah.
There's a lot of us that were out there and are out there, and I felt compelled to put a pen on paper and to start typing and try to even add a color on that to demystify all of this. So
Mhm. Yeah,
so it's exciting to be.
so many people feel like they're alone on that journey, and
Yes.
I love what you're taking from your own process and going back and building a guide for others, right?
Mm,
So say more. We came together a number of months ago talking about what
hmm.
Jessel was up to and what you were
Yeah.
up to, and here we are a few months later, finally having that conversation of around what you're putting out to the world based on what you've
Yeah.
built these last few months. But what got you here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like a long and full career,
Yeah,
filled with lots of different opportunities to
yeah,
transition. I think I counted 20, so 20
yeah,
different transitions over the
yeah.
course of
You've
my
done a few things.
a few transitions,
Yeah.
Ernie. And so, there's a lot of learning with that.
Hmm.
And those took place either around kind of process work, technology work, or people work. And I'm just really compelled, and I love that intersection between all three,
Yeah,
where we're working with ourselves, our colleagues, and we're getting smarter about how we do that with technology.
yeah,
And ultimately, we shouldn't all have to figure this out one at a time. All right, right. That's why I was compelled to build this guide.
yeah.
I felt like, why not? I wish I found one in
Well,
August of
yeah.
last year.
Well, and
I
you
needed
would
this guide.
well, and you had talked about how in August of last year you were after taking some time off, you
Mhm.
began a job search, and the way you described this to me was a feeling of being lost.
Yep.
And say more about that.
Yep. So August of last year, if I just take the listeners back, I was coming out of a sabbatical. So I kind of had the privilege to be in kind of a good headspace.
Hmm.
I was rested, which is, something we never can be. And my heart was kind of ready to re-engage. And I jumped in. So I was game on in
Yep.
August, and
Yep.
I dove in. I talked about this. I dove in, and I had this goal that came out of somewhere to apply to about 12 roles in a month. And
Yeah.
so it was Julie and the machine, right? I was on my computer, Ernie, just cranking out those applications. And I thought, you know what? I can do more than 12 a month. I
Right.
bet I can do, how about I do 12 a week? And so I was like, hey, I'm just gonna the throughput, I'm gonna keep applying, and then
Mm.
I'll have to like figure out who I want to talk to with all the responses to
Right.
these great applications.
They'll be lining up outside your door. Yep.
I will have to
Yeah.
take numbers, Ernie. And
Hmm.
so I remember going on a power walk with a colleague of mine in August, and she asked a very simple question. She's like, "Well, so how's the job search going?"
Hmm.
And this is like week 3, and I paused and I said, as a coach, right? And what was going through my mind? Well, let's see. I've done a lot of things, and what has transpired really? I've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so, but the progress and the response was not where I wanted it to be. And so
Hmm.
in that moment, I said, I don't know. She said, "Well, how does the job search process work?" And I said, "I don't think I know the answer to that question."
Yeah.
And that's why I was lost. I was
Hmm.
not on the path I thought I was on. Um, that was kind of humbling, but
Yeah.
again, it opened my eyes, which is the first step, right? In making any transition or change is to realize, it's not going as well as I anticipated.
Well, and you described that initial phase of pushing, right?
Pushing.
And having that epiphany of I mean, you and for you having all of this expertise and spending a good chunk of your career in marketing and branding, and it's to have you kind of be on this journey and then have that epiphany of, oh, right, this applies to a job search as well.
Right.
So tell me more about that pushing and pulling
Right.
and learning how to market yourself.
Yes. So if I were to go back to August and say what I skipped, I
Yeah.
skipped the planning. And I really skipped positioning myself for a market fit. And so I go back and I say, what in my history would be of help here? And so
Hmm.
I uh, pulled up my marketing mindset and hat, and I said, what's the biggest one of the biggest roles of a marketer is to really understand your audience, right? And if you really understand your audience and you think about the job search process, I mean, really, our jobs and discussions we have on opportunities anything more than solving someone's problem? Um, Not really. And
Hmm.
so that being said, that was a really big turning point for me is using that marketing mindset.
Hmm.
A, I didn't take things so personally,
Right.
right? And B, I'm like, wait a second, if I could take a marketing mindset, there's actually a process. There's a bit of a guide that I can use and not to have to spend so much of my energy on figuring out the process and more on taking a step back and figuring out what I was trying to get out of this, as opposed to your point, getting in line with 500 other people
Hmm.
and raising my hand, which wasn't working, by the way.
Right.
That was not an effective use of my time.
Right. Well, and if it is so easy today to just hit easy apply. For
Right.
folks that haven't
Oh,
had the epiphany, that and had some of the access to resources that you've had. If you just go on LinkedIn, the happy path seems like just hit easy apply to 100 jobs and wait for the call, right? Versus
right.
really needing to think hard about identity, brand, reputation, and needing to cultivate that depending on the opportunity, the company, the problem to be solved.
The problem to be
And it's
solved.
it's more work, but it's uh, qualitative work that will make you stand out in that crowd of 500 people, versus just the same message for everybody, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Um,
I like that, that it's it is work,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
it's preparation. It is critical thinking as opposed to just being busy, which
right.
is
It's
very tempting because you feel
well,
really good. Like you can just, right?
yep,
It's like
it's
that
that
dopamine of
dopamine
like,
hit.
right?
Yeah,
Oh, but it was not effective. And so that's again why I was compelled to kind of document um, what I uncovered so that
yep,
other people don't have to figure that part out.
yeah. Treading water versus actually going somewhere, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about the approach of using a marketing approach to your job search, and in your ebook you have this great content marketing funnel, um, that is broken down into attract, engage, convert, retain. And I'm going to share this now on the Zoom so
Perfect.
that folks can see what it is you're talking about here.
Perfect.
Um,
And so, to your point, Ernie, let's kind of try on the headset and mindset of a marketer and see what that could offer us to create a market fit for ourselves.
and
So
can you
here
see this?
is,
Is this full screen for you?
it totally is.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yep.
talk us through this.
Okay. So this is one of many funnels you can find online. This is from WordStream.
Hmm.
And what the point of this is, so if I was a marketer, um, this is the process that my customers go through. And so this is kind of how I see the world.
Hmm.
And the reason I chose this graphic is because there's two parts of this graphic. There's the left side,
Hmm.
Ernie, which is one person, and then there's the other person on the other side of this graphic.
Oh, okay.
And
So your goal here is, as the job seeker is on the left, and on the
yep,
right side is the hiring manager,
it
or
is.
yep. Okay.
It is. And I like this visual because again, it goes from top to bottom,
Hmm.
right? So we're sharing kind of those four different phases.
Yep.
And so maybe as opposed to going really deep into this, maybe we take an example from
Yeah.
your life, Ernie, and
Yeah.
just kind of walk the listeners through this. So can you think of a major purchase you've made in the last 6 months in your family that
I sure can. We're building a house out in the
oh geez.
mountains, and so that's fairly substantial. So we're building an investment property out there, and that's been a pretty big part of our focus these days. Yep.
I would say so. Oh gosh. All right. So out west. So how did you and your significant other become aware of where you wanted to build and what you wanted to build?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time just out in the mountains getting a sense of what neighborhoods and
Neighborhoods.
regions we liked, and
Okay.
did a lot of exploring. And yeah, it took us a year or so to find a spot
Wow.
we liked. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so when you were finding the spot, what were you like weighing against each other? Because now you're in the
Yeah.
evaluation stage. What kind of things
Yeah.
were coming up between you two? Do you agree on everything or
Oh no, gosh no.
okay.
Because I wanted middle of the woods,
Oh,
no people, and Susan, my wife, was more interested in being closer to cities and restaurants and shopping and things to do. So we had to find a place that was somewhere in the middle and mostly towards what she wanted, because this is marriage is compromise, and my wife always wins. So but we ended up being attracted to this area because it was the property itself was pretty isolated, but we were 10 minutes from downtown. So it
ooh,
actually did check a lot of our common
sounds like it.
boxes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And what talk to us about how you made your decision to purchase. Like what was that
Yeah,
about? Were
yeah,
you buying between, renting, building, buying?
yeah,
Like what was that
yeah.
about?
Yeah, it was all about buying a piece of land and
Okay.
building something new. But finding the place that had the best view and the best location were the key things, and the deciding factor was when we walked onto this piece of land and we saw the view. We both got really emotional.
Oh,
It,
that'll
it
do
just it
it.
just it, it kind of sparked joy for us, and
Mm,
we both decided, yeah, this is the place. We didn't use after that. It was became less of a quantitative weighing all the pros and cons and everything to, this is the place, how do we make it happen, right? So
I
we
love it.
knew where that moment just clicked for us. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Hmm.
So, for the listeners,
Yeah.
we're listening to again your story, Ernie, about how you went from as a customer,
Yeah.
right? How you were first you had a need, um, to find a new place, and then
Yeah.
you slowly were evaluating your options, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And then you were kind of weighing, like, is it here, is it there? You're kind of figuring out which things are more important. And I love the emotion that comes in because this is not always so objective. This is
Right.
we make
Right.
decisions based on our
Yeah.
feelings all the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then now you're part of the neighborhood, right? Now they're
Right.
retaining you as part of
Hmm.
that place. So why, kind of how does this map back to a job search? Back in in August, I was on the left side of this funnel.
Right.
And actually, I dove head into the funnel, um, pushing, right? Applying, reacting to what was out there.
Hmm.
And what I ended up doing is taking a step back, and I actually found myself a transition coach. It was a colleague of mine who really helped me back up, and we focus on two main things, because it's really a puzzle. That's how I like to describe this. It is a
Right.
puzzle. So
Right.
one part of the puzzle is me. Like, I'm one of the pieces, and says, what does Julie bring? What are my strengths, my areas of expertise? That's one piece of the puzzle, and I didn't stop to articulate that. I
Hmm.
made a lot of assumptions. The second part of the puzzle is um, the opportunity, right? The job, the problem they're trying to solve.
Hmm.
I also didn't spend a lot of time discovering that. Like, you and your significant other, you went out there. I mean,
Right.
you looked around.
Right.
You knew which piece of property was 10 minutes away and which one was
Hmm.
too far,
Hmm.
right? But you
Yep.
did your homework,
Right.
right? You didn't
Yeah.
just go online and start, clicking purchase,
Right.
right? There's a process we go through. And
Sure.
so the magic is really in the two. And so when you can get your story and your part of the puzzle articulated and well defined,
Hmm.
and then it matches somebody's need, that's the market fit
Yeah.
that we're talking
And
about.
being able to articulate that with a recruiter, um, out networking, folks who could potentially be a reference for you, right?
Yes.
Being helping them sum you up in a few sentences so they can say, "Oh, Julie is a business a transformative coach, business consultant, and we know exactly where it is, like where your superpower is." And
Yes.
spending the time to evaluate everything that like that tapestry that makes you you, and put that into something that folks can digest easily in an easy to understand narrative. You these first two levels here are are just tremendously impactful, towards building that for yourself, versus just I'm just another lemming in the line of 500 people, right?
Right. And going back to your critical thinking,
Yeah.
you didn't when you and your significant other were out looking, you weren't looking across all 50 states, right? You were
Right.
slowly narrowing your focus in.
Yeah.
And when you narrow your focus in your case was geography, then you can get even smarter, and you
Yeah.
can make that match really clear,
Yeah.
and continue to refine it. And that, people, again, on the other side, those hiring managers, they can tell, the recruiters, they can tell if you're just clicking, or if
Right.
you've done your research, right? They know
Yeah.
if you've walked that property, Ernie.
Yeah.
They know.
Well, and
Um,
I've always been anti cover letter, because
mm,
and I think who's actually going to read that cover letter, right? And but if you can get over that, if you can get through the applicant tracking system to a human, um, obviously the resume, we all know how long, hiring managers tend to focus on the resume. It's not that much time, but if you're able to pique an interest with your resume, and there are folks that are out there that have been on this podcast that help make your resume really pop. There's so much here that can feed into an awesome cover letter around here's my story, here's my superpower, here's why I'm a fit. And I'm a convert, right? I just used to think cover letters were a waste of time, and uh, I'm all in on cover letters now, based on a lot of what we're talking about here.
well, and even if it just helps you personally,
Yeah,
get
yeah,
really clear, that is great. And that, this is, like we talked about, this is iterative. It could be a differentiated message for different industries, right? It could be, and
yeah,
I talk about that in the guidebook, like what are the industries? What are keeping them up at night? And how does what you already have these things. How does
yeah,
that fit
yeah,
what they really need, what problems they're
yeah,
solving, and their goals? That takes critical thinking. So, so thanks for sharing your experience, your
yeah.
homing. I hope it's like we're going to need to have pictures as you go
Oh,
forward, I think.
absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually have a trail cam up there that's watching
I
it
believe
happen, and so
that
we
is
can do kind of a
cool.
time lapse movie at some point down the road.
That is
Yeah.
cool. Well, and do you, like you said, it went away from a quantitative decision, and now you're excited about it. Um, now it's yours. And so
Yeah.
that's slowly how this when it's a market fit,
Yep.
like when we're creating that demand, and creating that pull, and we're having conversations with people, and again, out exploring, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
should feel natural.
Right.
It shouldn't
Well,
be, like we're trying to squeeze the puzzle pieces together. That's a sign.
and I get referrals for coaching all the time,
Mm.
and I'd say 50% of the folks that come my way are in a transition or in a search or looking for that next thing. And there's tension between I only have so much time to indulge myself in this space before I really need to get a job now, right? So it's having a healthy expectation around how long that transition might take if you're about to leave a job or
Right.
maybe see a transition coming, to invest in doing this sooner than later so that when you're on the search, you've got a lot of this already done. Because you don't want to have to be like, well, this job doesn't check all my boxes, but I need a job, because then that will filter into how well how much joy you get out of that job and how well you do on that job. So taking the time
Right.
to ensure that this job is what really sparks joy in you, to use a decluttering analogy, is really important.
It
Um,
is. It
yeah,
is. And how you spend your energy and time, right? I mean, I jumped in here and I was trying to fast forward, and I
yep,
needed to spend time outside of this funnel to prepare.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
it's also being ready. Like,
hmm,
you slowly had those conversations with your significant other to get ready, to figure it out, so that when you went out there, you were focused,
right,
right? You weren't just marching around the properties. You had a plan, and you were
yep,
really focused in. And that's what that's what my hope is, that we just get people more focused and targeted, so that you're just more efficient in going
love it.
through this. Yeah.
Well, all right, I'm going to stop sharing here.
Okay.
That was a great analogy, and I'd love to talk a little more about your ebook, Julie. I know there's multiple guideposts here, um, that folks can see. And let's see. So I'm scrolling back up to the top here. Give me a second, as I furiously try to get to the top of your document. So can I just do a high level of the
Sure.
six? So we spent quite a bit of time today talking about just building your brand and being strategic about the role. Your ebook delves into a lot of the, say, earlier stages. Step one, we have decluttering, clearing the path for a successful job search. So decluttering your surroundings, your head, right? Is there anything more you want to share there?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good summary, Ernie. It's just making sure that you're not um you're doing everything you can to focus.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Focus
number
and not
two, we have
assume. Yeah.
we have how to market yourself, which we spent quite a bit of
We
time
did.
digging
Yeah.
into today. That's your
Yeah.
second guidepost.
Yep.
Number three is truth telling, how to listen to your inner compass. We touched on that a little bit too. Is there any more to share there?
Well, I loved your spark joy.
Yeah.
Um, and finding those accountability partners. Like, I found
Mm.
that coach. And I actually use two different resources. I found someone who keep me honest about, what is the search process exactly? Because it wasn't what
Yeah.
I thought. And then I also engaged another coach on just my wellness through the whole thing. So
Right.
who can help kind of keep me honest when
Yeah.
when maybe I don't want to be honest with myself. Those are resources to just pay attention to and find for yourself.
And 100% agree with you, Julie. It's sometimes people say, "Well, you're a coach. Why do you need a coach?" And we all have our blind spots and our biases
Oh my
and the
gosh,
lies we tell ourselves. So it's always good to have somebody outside of your head poking at you to keep you honest.
it
And
totally is.
and you had not everybody has two coaches. You went all in on the coaching. You had
I know.
a lifestyle coach and a someone specifically focused on your job search with you, right?
Yes.
Which
Yeah. I had someone helping me really hone in that, figuring out what exactly how I was looking to contribute, and then
right,
honing in that story, right, and telling it. And
right.
then someone making sure I wasn't like head down for 3 weeks and I come up exhausted, because that doesn't do anybody any good.
All right, and then number four guidepost is the digital toolkit to build your brand. You've got a whole you've got a number of pages here dedicated to that. So tell us more about what folks will see as they delve into that guidepost.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's paying attention to your online brand. I know
Mhm.
this podcast had visited that before, but
Yeah,
um, you kind of gotta pay attention to that now.
yeah,
You can't skip it, because people will go and look at your things, like your recommendations people gave you, and if there
yeah,
aren't any, they're like, what does that mean?" So
yeah, yeah,
just a lot of things to think about, and you don't have to do all of them. It's just, just pick a couple,
yeah,
and just make it look like it's contemporary.
yeah, yeah. Good. And then we have 5A and 5B. Let's see. So
Mhm.
intentional targeting.
Yes. Yes, I go back to your story and say,
Yeah,
you weren't searching the West, right? You were
yeah,
searching like a region or an
right,
area within,
right.
and then you can ask some specific questions and you can get really targeted and create that pull. Um, that's what this is. It's picking some
Yeah,
places, some industries, Ernie, some companies, and really, again, as a marketer, if you had your marketing mindset, you'd get to be really curious about them and get to know where could they really use help, and then
yep.
how can you help them?
And so I have two stories about that. So one is
Ooh,
my mountain story, right? Because
yes.
we knew that when we first moved to North Carolina, we thought Asheville is the place to be, right? That's
Mm,
where all the breweries and the mountain stuff happens to be. And then we were on the Blue Ridge Parkway driving around, and our GPS gave out, and we took the first exit we saw just to get a lay of the land, and we had stumbled into this little town called Blowing Rock, which is about an hour and a half north of Asheville, and we were like, oh, this looks cool too. And then we explored that area, and then we found Boone
mm,
and Todd and all these other there's ski resorts and everything up there. Appalachian State is there that we had no idea existed. And it was
mm.
just a happy accident because we
Happy accident.
were exploring, driving without GPS on, right? So there's some elements of
Mm,
just go out there and some things may surprise you. And I attribute that to I align that to networking. That's the something that just happened recently. I dragged a friend out to a networking event who was on a job search, and he was
mm.
on that had that mindset of, well, I'll just apply. I'll let a couple of recruiters I know that I'm looking, and
Right.
I'll fill out a bunch of applications, and I'll just sit at home and wait for my phone to ring. And um, you definitely need to be more proactive. And we went out to a networking event where we didn't know anybody there. This was a new type of networking
Mm,
event, and we found ourselves talking to a whole bunch of people and folks that could potentially help him along on his job search. So
nice.
if being intentional and allowing happy accidents to happen is
Yes.
certainly something that has resonated with me more recently. Just putting yourself out there, and um, uh, if you're not comfortable with networking, suck it up and do it anyway, right? Because it'll definitely drive some happy accidents for you.
Well, and you were that friend that helped nudge them,
The
right?
accountability
And so,
partner. Yeah,
there's something to be said about that. And there's a reason your podcast is called what it is. It's not,
yeah,
you can't, there is a hustle involved, which is the
yeah,
fifth, which is the next guidepost. It's like you really need to be, the both the rock star and the nudger
yeah.
and the cheerleader. You really need to be game on
And this
and
is
manage
and
it.
and you have this in the book as your most important role.
Your most important role.
Yeah,
I mean, this is not a time to sit back and wait for the phone to ring. This is a great opportunity to go explore, Ernie. That's what this is about, to figure out this puzzle. Um, and I love that you're saying you might discover things that you never even knew you were interested in, right? And
right.
wouldn't that be great? right? To get surprised along the way. Yeah.
It's kind of I mean, in some cases, a job loss or being stuck or looking for the next thing can be a stressful, disruptive event, but it can also be an amazing gift because just so much out there it has is changing. The job market is still incredibly active, and the unemployment rate is super low. So the opportunities are out there. It's the challenge is with the matching. I feel like folks like yourself and what you're putting out to the world is going to be super well received by folks that are out there looking for the next thing.
Well, we all shouldn't have to figure it out on our own. We don't have time for that, right? I'd rather spend time with the exploration on my puzzle piece and really where I could best contribute and do my best work. So that's the hope, right? Is that we're spending time and energy on the things that matter versus the things that don't.
Great. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation, Julie. Believe it or not, we are at time. But thank you so much for joining the podcast and sharing your story. And is today the day when your ebook will be available to the world?
Today we're going to be doing the unveil. So it was really an honor to talk about it here. And I know we have a slide with a couple of my partners on that in that journey. And so again, we're excited to make it kind of a resource bundle for people so that you're not in this alone by any means.
Well, and so the website, and can they order it from your website, The Shift Matters? Okay, yes. So the website is theshiftmatters.com. It's Juli Okal with her two coaching friends. Do they help develop the content as well, or were they your inspiration?
Is a combo plate.
Yeah.
Yes, it's this new way of working, right? We all learn to iterate together, and that's what I think is really inspiring now. So yes.
Great. Yeah. Well, love the message. Enjoyed the time. Hope to see you on future podcasts and panels as they come up.
And thank you again for doing what you're doing, and again normalizing this, and let's have some fun while we're doing it too, because if we're not doing that, if we're not finding joy in it, it's going to be a long search.
Love it. Thanks, Julie. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.